Sometime in late July or early August, you will notice it. The feeder that was busy all spring and summer goes quiet. The yard that was full of color and sound for months feels empty. The orioles are gone. The rose-breasted grosbeaks vanished without warning. Even the chickadees and cardinals, your year-round birds, seem to have pulled back. They are at the feeder less. They are harder to find in the shrubs. The yard feels abandoned. Most people assume the birds left early for the winter. They didn't. Most of the birds in your yard in August have not gone anywhere yet. What is happening to them right now is something far stranger, and in many ways far more difficult than migration. And it is one of the least understood and least talked about seasons in a bird's entire year. Welcome back to Backyard Bird Mind. Subscribe before you leave, because what you are about to learn will change the way you see the quiet weeks of August in your yard. Today we are going into the hidden season, the one that falls between summer and migration, between the breeding rush and the long flight south, when the birds in your yard are doing something to their own bodies that, if you saw it happening, you would not believe. Stay until the end, because the last section covers what you can do right now to help the birds through the most physically demanding weeks of their year. Number 1. Your birds are not gone. They are molting, and it is exhausting. In late July and August, nearly every bird in your yard is going through a full or partial molt, the complete replacement of its feathers. It sounds like routine maintenance. It is not. It is one of the most physiologically costly things a bird does all year, and for many species, it coincides with one of the most dangerous periods of their lives. Feathers are made of keratin, the same protein as your fingernails, and they are dead structures. They cannot repair themselves. A feather that gets damaged in a fight, bent in a windstorm, bleached by months of sun, stays damaged. The only solution is to replace it, and replacement requires energy, a lot of it. Research from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology has estimated that growing a full set of new flight feathers requires a caloric investment, roughly equivalent to the effort of egg-laying in females, one of the most energy-intensive things a bird does during the year. But here is the part that explains why your yard goes quiet. During primary feather molt, when the large wing feathers are being replaced in sequence, a bird's flight is compromised. Not grounded, but slower, less maneuverable, less capable of the sharp turns and explosive acceleration that escape from a hawk requires. A molting bird is a vulnerable bird. And a vulnerable bird is a quiet bird. It pulls back from exposed areas. It stops singing. It stops advertising its location. It hides. The male cardinal who was singing from the top of the oak every morning in May is still in your yard in August. He is almost certainly in the densest shrub he can find, sitting still, conserving energy, growing feathers, and waiting for the process to be over. Number 2. The songbird that goes silent in August is making a choice, not a disappearance. The dawn chorus that fills your yard from April through June is one of the most acoustically rich natural phenomena in North America. Researchers have recorded over 40 distinct species singing simultaneously in a single suburban yard at peak spring dawn. By August, that chorus has collapsed to a fraction of its former size. Most people experience this as loss. It is actually a deliberate strategy. Song is expensive. It costs calories. It is conspicuous. In spring, the cost is worth paying. Song attracts mates, establishes territory, signals fitness. In late summer, when breeding is over, territory is no longer being defended in the same way, and a bird is trying to channel every available calorie into feather production and fat storage for migration. Song becomes a liability. Research from Ohio State University, tracking individual songbird energy budgets, found that the cessation of song in late summer is not random quieting. It is a measurable energy conservation response. Birds that stopped singing earlier in the post-breeding period had better body condition scores going into migration than those that continued singing longer into the summer. The birds that go silent in your yard in August are not unhappy. They are efficient. There is a narrow window. usually the last 10 days of August in the northern United States, when you may hear a fragment of spring song, again, a half-formed phrase from a cardinal, a few notes from a song sparrow. Ornithologists call this quiet subsong, a low, rambling, almost private version of the full territorial song. It is thought to serve a kind of maintenance function, keeping the neural pathways of song production active during the long weeks of silence. If you hear it, stop. It is one of the strangest and most beautiful sounds your yard makes, and most people never notice it is happening. Number 3. The birds you do see in August are not your birds. Here is something that takes people a moment to process. In August, many of the birds you see moving through your yard have never been in your yard before. They were born this summer, somewhere nearby, and they are now doing what young birds do in the weeks after fledging, exploring, ranging, testing their own navigation, beginning to build the mental maps they will use for the rest of their lives. This is called post-breeding dispersal, and its scale surprises most people. In a good breeding year, a single pair of song sparrows can produce 2 or 3 clutches of eggs, with 3 to 5 young per clutch. That is up to 15 new birds per pair entering the landscape in July and August, all of them young, all of them moving, all of them learning. Researchers tracking banded juvenile birds in suburban habitats have documented individual young birds ranging up to several miles from their nest site within weeks of fledging. What this means for your yard is that in August, you have an audience you have never met. Young birds are watching you, evaluating your yard, deciding whether it is a place worth knowing. The experiences they have in your yard in August, whether food is present, whether the water is clean, whether the cover feels safe, will shape the mental map they carry for the rest of their lives. The bird that returns to your yard next spring may be a bird that was in your yard for the first time this August, as a fledgling, watching. Number 4. What is happening to the hummingbird at your feeder right now? The ruby-throated hummingbird at your feeder in August is not the same bird that was there in June, even if it looks identical. Or rather, it may not be, and understanding the difference changes everything about how you think about the August rush at the hummingbird feeder. In June and July, your hummingbird feeder is serving a local breeding population. The male who defended the feeder aggressively, the female who snuck in while he was distracted, the few birds whose territories centered on your yard. By August, that local population has been joined by something much larger, the leading edge of southbound migration. Ruby-throated hummingbirds, from as far north as Canada, begin moving south in late July. They are driven by day length, not temperature, so the August days still feel like summer to you, while the birds are already responding to a shortening photoperiod that registers as a biological imperative to move. They arrive in your yard already in heavy feeding mode, consuming nectar at a rate that can seem frantic compared to the relaxed feeding of June. They are not anxious, they are fueling. A ruby-throated hummingbird preparing for the Gulf crossing will nearly double its body weight in the weeks before departure, storing fat in deposits that change the visible shape of its chest and belly. A bird that weighed 3.5 grams in June may weigh 6 grams in late August. It will cross the Gulf of Mexico in a single, non-stop flight of 18 to 20 hours. The nectar in your feeder in August is not a supplement. For some of these birds, it is the fuel for one of the most extraordinary physical feats in the natural world. Keep the feeder clean. Change the solution every 2 to 3 days in the August heat. The bird that visits you this week may reach the coast of Yucatan next week. Number 5. What you can do right now for the birds that are struggling through it. August is the month most backyard birders let their attention slip. The spring excitement has faded, migration feels weeks away, and the yard seems quiet enough that maintenance can wait. This is exactly backward. August is when the birds in your yard need your yard the most. Water is the most critical thing you can provide. Molting birds bathe compulsively. Water helps with feather alignment and skin condition during growth. And the August heat makes dehydration a genuine risk for small birds that are already calorie-stressed. Change your bird bath daily. If you do nothing else this month, do that. Native plants with seed heads matter more in August than at any other time of year. The spent flower heads of coneflowers, black-eyed Susans, and sunflowers are not untidy. They are a food source that requires no maintenance and serves birds that are in no condition to compete aggressively at a feeder. Goldfinches in particular move through yards in August, specifically targeting these seed heads, feeding in the loose, wandering way of birds that are not defending territory, just eating. Resist the urge to tidy. The brush pile in the corner of your yard, the leaf litter under the shrubs, the dead stems you have been meaning to cut back. These are cover for molting birds that need to be invisible. A cardinal in primary molt pressed into the center of a brush pile in August is doing the right thing in the right place. Leave the pile where it is. The yard goes quiet in August. The birds are still there. They are just doing something harder than singing, harder than feeding, harder in some ways than migration. They are rebuilding themselves from the inside out, one feather at a time. And they are doing it in your yard, because your yard is the place they chose. Tell me in the comments, have you ever noticed the August quiet and wondered where your birds went? Have you spotted a molting bird and been startled by how different it looked? I want to hear about it. I read every one. I'll see you in the next one.